You know, we've all been there, haven't we? Staring down a struggle that feels like a total dead end, a season where our problems just seem to eclipse everything else. But what if those very trials are actually the raw material for our greatest breakthroughs? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig in and find out how to uncover the hidden blessing that's so often buried in our biggest burdens. And this right here, this is the perfect metaphor for how God so often works in our lives. We're always looking for the big, obvious gears, right? The flashy miracles, the sudden downpour of blessings. But true precision, the thing that makes life actually work, often comes from these tiny, hidden springs. It's the quiet, essential grace, kind of like the morning dew, that sustains us day by day, even when we don't see it. Okay, so why is this so hard for us to see? Our first section dives into a really human problem, our tendency to get spiritually blind to the gifts we already have, focusing instead on all the empty spaces in our lives. I mean, just look at the stark contrast on this slide. On the left, that's our typical focus, the empty spaces, what we feel we're missing, the problems that just loom so large. It is so easy to get stuck there, isn't it? But then, look to the right. That's God's reality. A world that's actually filled with hidden springs and morning dew, these foundational gifts we take for granted all the time. The air in your lungs, the beat of your heart, the grace that met you this morning. Seriously, these aren't small things. They are the absolute bedrock of our entire existence. And you know, Scripture totally backs this up. It warns us that our own hearts can be, well, tricky. How many times have our feelings led us down the completely wrong path? This verse from Jeremiah, it's not meant to be a condemnation. It's more like a caution sign. It's just reminding us that if we only trust how we feel in the moment, we risk completely missing the steady, constant goodness of God that is always, always there. So if our natural vision is kind of skewed, how do we fix it? How do we start seeing reality the way God sees it? Well, that brings us to our solution, putting on what we're going to call the gratitude lens. And trust me, this is about way more than just saying thank you. See, gratitude in this context, it's not some passive feeling that just washes over you when things are going great. No, it's an active, conscious choice. It's a spiritual discipline. It's a foundational act of worship where you deliberately retrain your eyes to see what God is doing, declaring that He is, in fact, greater than any problem you face. Let's see this principle in action through the incredible story of Mephibosheth. I mean, can you even imagine his situation? Here's a prince who becomes a cripple. He's a member of a fallen royal family hiding out in this desolate town literally called no pasture. I mean, he was the very definition of stuck, forgotten, and just surrounded by lack. Now just picture his terror when he's suddenly summoned to the palace by King David, the very man who overthrew his family's dynasty. He must have been expecting the absolute worst. But David wasn't looking for revenge. He was acting on a covenant of kindness, a deep, binding promise of loyalty and love that he had made years earlier with Mephibosheth's father, Jonathan. And just think about this transformation. From a place called no pasture, he was given a permanent seat at the king's table. And here's the real kicker. His greatest liability, his identity, his connection to the fallen King Saul, that became the very thing that led to his restoration. It's such a powerful reminder that God can use our most broken places to position us for His greatest grace. Okay, so we've shifted our perspective. We're learning to see with gratitude. But what do we actually do when we're in the thick of the struggle and feel completely and utterly stuck? Well, that's where our next focus comes in. The powerful act of surrender through what we call breakthrough prayer. The story of Hannah in the Bible gives us a perfect model for this. Her prayer wasn't quiet or polite, it was raw. First, she was completely honest, pouring out her bitterness of soul. Second, she was shamelessly persistent, coming back year after year. And third, and this is the most important part, she reached a point of total surrender. She vowed to give her son back to God, aligning her deepest desire with His purpose. And this is the part that is just amazing. Listen to this. Before she got her miracle, before anything in her external circumstances had changed, she was changed. The breakthrough happened inside her spirit first. That single act of surrender washed away her anxiety and replaced it with a peace and a hope that her problem could no longer touch. And this leads us to the ultimate goal, you see. The point isn't just to get an answer to our prayer, but to be fundamentally transformed by the process itself. It's about forging a brand new identity in the very place of our struggle. This has to be one of the most profound, completely upside-down principles in all of Scripture. God's power doesn't just show up in spite of our weakness. It is made perfect in our weakness. It's this divine paradox. Our weakness isn't a liability. It's actually an invitation for God's power. It's the very canvas on which his strength is most brilliantly displayed. Just look at the story of Jacob. He walked into his divine encounter as this self-reliant schemer, a man whose very name meant the deceiver. He spent an entire night wrestling with God, and just before dawn, God touched his hip, breaking his physical strength and his lifelong habit of self-reliance in one single moment. He walked away from that encounter with a permanent limp, but he also walked away with a brand new name, Israel, which means one who struggles with God. That limp, it wasn't a sign of defeat, not at all. It was a trophy. It was a permanent, physical reminder that his greatest strength was now found in his dependence on God. See, God didn't just want to solve Jacob's problem with his brother. He wanted to use that struggle to give him a new, truer identity. So as we bring this all together, we start to see a really clear path, don't we? We move from focusing on our empty spaces to seeing through a lens of gratitude. We move from complaint to the active prayer of surrender. And through it all, God forges in us a new identity, where our weakness becomes the showcase for his strength. And that brings us right here to this final, crucial question for you. The struggle you're facing right now, it is not your final destination. It is the raw material for your transformation. So take a moment and ask yourself, what hidden blessing is God preparing for you in this? And what new identity is waiting for you on the other side?